Hello, my name's Nick Salmond. I'm a London Blue Badge tourist guide and one of around 600 members of the Association of Professional Tourist Guides. That's the body that runs the Guide London website. And we've been unable to guide over the last few months because of the COVID situation. So we've been presenting a series of broadcasts from our homes, trying to give a little bit of life in London to you, wherever you are in the world. We've told you about London's history, we've told you about its culture, and we've talked about some of the people who've lived here over the years. Hopefully, you've been able to catch our broadcasts. If you've missed any, then they are all available online. The best place to find them is our YouTube channel. Just go and search for Guide London. You can find all our broadcasts stored there. But London is starting to open up now, and museums and galleries are starting to open their doors to visitors once more. So we're going to try and get out into the city and tell you some of the intriguing places you can visit in this great capital. Now, last time we visited the Tower of London, we were given a very warm welcome by the yeoman warder, Maura Cameron, who took us inside the tower and told us a bit about how the Tower of London is coping with the new conditions under which visitors need to enter. And that's well worth viewing the broadcast. If you haven't seen it so far, do go and find it. It's like all the others on our YouTube page. But London is full of attractions, and not just major attractions like the Tower of London. London is full of very small museums that tell you all kinds of information about aspects of life in London. And today we're going to visit one of the most intriguing, one of the most fascinating, and that is the old operating theatre and herb garret that lies just south of the River Thames. If we have a look at the map of London, here you can see the city. If we zoom in a bit, you can see the Tower of London just north of the river here. Tower Bridge, the famous bridge with where the road opens up in the middle. And just upstream from it, we have London Bridge, the very famous London Bridge, as in London Bridge is falling down. Just south of London Bridge, you will find the old operating theatre museum and herb garret. And to take us there, to tell us a little bit about the museum and to talk to some of the people involved in running the museum, I'm going to hand over to Alex Hetherington.
Hi, Alex Hetherington, Blue Badge Guide, here in St Thomas's Street, where St Thomas's Hospital used to be. We're on the south bank of the River Thames, very close to London Bridge, to London Bridge Station and to the bridge itself. Behind Leslie's on camera, is the Shard, the very tallest building in Western Europe when it went up. A glass building, like a really, really sharp pyramid. And behind me, away in the distance down the street, is the extremely popular Borough Market, now a gourmet food market. We're within throwing distance of a smoked salmon bagel from there to here, but I'm looking at the church building behind me. It was the chapel of St Thomas's Hospital, and in the roof of the chapel, the hospital, when they were looking for space to put an operating theatre, they moved into the roof of the chapel, and although the hospital is long gone since the late 19th century, and the church is now a restaurant, discovered up in the top of it is the remains of the herb garret where they made their medicines, and where from the early 19th century through to the 1860s there was an operating theatre, and it still survives as an incredible piece of history and place to visit. And the old operating theatre is reopening, having been closed for a few months now. It's reopening this Saturday, tomorrow on broadcast time, to the public for the first time. We're going to go up the 52 stairs of the sharp spiral staircase. It's a tighter spiral than the tightest ones in the Tower of London, and much further up into the operating theatre, and we'll meet some of the members of staff and the director, Sarah Corn, who's going to tell us about what they're doing as they reopen. Well, I've made it up the 52 stairs on the spiral staircase, that tight spiral staircase that brings us up into the loft of the chapel of St Thomas's Hospital as it was, and into an extraordinary space. There's a wide collection of materials here. I'm standing beside a cabinet of curiosities, got all sorts of weird things in it. And I'm going to ask Sarah Corn, who's the director of the old operating theatre, to tell us a little bit about the space that we're in and this selection of objects that are held within it. So Sarah, let's come round to Sarah. Sarah, it's extraordinary in here. We're in the roof of a chapel. What's the history of the building? What's the story of the building?
Okay, so this church used to be part of the old St Thomas's Hospital that was on this site. The site actually dates back. There's been a hospital on this site to the medieval period, but this actual church dates from around 1703. Purpose built with this, as you say, this big attic open space that we call Garret, and it was built with in mind to potentially use to store and dry and cure herbs.
We're at a vital moment now as you're just getting ready to reopen. Can you talk us through the changes you've had to make in terms of being ready to welcome visitors in this time?
Yeah, so as you say, yes, we used to be busy, very busy at the weekends. We used to hold 4 talks, 2 over on a Saturday and a Sunday, continuous stream of people visiting Borough Market and exploring the area. So we've gone from about 46,000 visitors a year to being closed for about 3 or 4 months, which has been sort of a real shock to the system and everyone who's so used to just being and living and breathing this space. But yes, we've had to think very seriously about how we can make this not diminish the experience visitors have when they come in, enhance it if we can, but also maintain safety and security and follow the guidelines. So what people can expect is they'll have to book in advance. So they have to go to our website, www.oldoperatingtheatre.com/visiting-us, and you will book a slot, and it will last about 45 minutes, the experience. And when you arrive, you'll be greeted by our team. We'll have visors on, and visitors are welcome to bring their own hand sanitizer and face coverings. And you'll be greeted, and there'll be a timed sort of entry as you come in, and there'll be a one-way system on our 52-step spiral step staircase, so you don't meet anyone on the way down or up. When you come in, you'll be greeted by hand sanitizer. We'll be encouraging you at separate points throughout the experience to help yourself to hand sanitizer. Our welcome team on the front desk will have a big screen in front of them, and you can have a look around the shop. But then when you come into the space and experience the Garret and the theatre, we'll be guided by a virtual tour, I suppose. It's more digital. We'll be encouraging people to use their own smartphones and smart devices, and to use QR codes to explore each bay in a timed sort of way, which we hope will really engage visitors, potentially even more than maybe looking at things that they wouldn't have otherwise looked at. We can sort of point out some did you knows and encourage quizzes and conversation between the groups. And that's one thing I should say is the booking is for groups of up to 6 people, and we're encouraging people to come in their bubbles and their household units, so that you can really huddle around in your units around these fascinating items and really sort of explore them a lot more with, like I say, free Wi-Fi that you can sign up to and go on our QR code trail.
I'm going to introduce Leslie, one of the museum's education team. Leslie shares the same surname with me, so we're allowed to stand a little bit closer to each other. And Leslie, this section of the museum gives us a sense of the long history of this operating theatre. And I'd like you to just talk us through it and then pick out 1 or 2 of your favourites in this part of the visitor's experience.
Okay, well this garret was originally used to store herbs that we use. The hospital, St Thomas's Hospital, would have produced its own medicines on site, and this was used by the apothecaries of the hospital as a storage space. So this area here, our sort of herbarium area, is full of some of the herbs and different animal products and things that would have been used in producing medicine in the hospital. And a lot of our exhibits deal with sort of healthcare, and developments in medical understanding. We've got a lot of our bottles are a real attraction. They make the place look really beautiful with the light shining through the windows. And we've got some amazing exhibits like this domestic medicine chest from the 19th century. And
you've got. I said they're going to be fascinated in frankincense. The little, they look like crystals or pellets, but it's dried out tree sap. Who knew? And I said, you've got to show the frankincense. And Leslie said, people are not going to be interested in the frankincense. But frankincense.
Frankincense and myrrh and pine resin, so lots of the natural products are used. They're not all herbs and flowers, but there's a lot of different natural products. We've got something about the history of aspirin, originally made from willow bark. Over in this part of the museum, we've got a little bit more about the sort of early science behind that, the sort of early chemistry or almost alchemy of working out ways of producing medicines. There's a little bit here about the history of Dr. Mead's snail water, which was a product that was used to treat patients with syphilis. Okay, so you've seen our Garret space, but would you like to see the real jewel in our crown here?
Leslie, take us to the jewel in the crown.
Okay, well if you follow me, we'll just go through and hopefully we'll find our education manager, Julie, who'll be able to talk to you about the other aspect of our museum. Come through here.
It's a labyrinth, isn't it? We're up in the roof, and there's a sudden change. We're getting to curves.
Feel the difference, yeah.
Feel the difference.
More
Julie,
light, certainly. Hello there.
take us around the corner into the big reveal, Julie.
Oh, indeed. So, I mean, in terms of the jewel in the crown, this space is really what I would define as one of the small wonders of the world, absolutely, that exists here. It's got a couple of steps that's going to bring you down here.
Julie, you can hear the difference in here. There's an echo. We're in a great big space. Still up in the roof of the chapel, but in a theatre. Tell me, this is how operating theatres got to be called.
Theatres, absolutely. So you are really in an auditorium. One thing that you notice obviously is the light. All operating theatres before the development of electricity were generally positioned in a part of a building where they could establish a large skylight, because surgeons obviously need that maximum amount of light to work with accuracy. So what you see around here are these tiers, just like any other theatre. It's providing an arena for display. In this case, it would obviously be for the for the students to watch, to observe the operations that were taking place here.
And so theatre in the sense of an auditorium, but this wasn't entertainment, was it? It was students who were here to learn rather than being some kind of like a vaudeville thing.
Absolutely, yeah. So you have roughly about 150 students, we're told, were informed, depending on the operation. I mean, for example, if you were talking about a sort of half or full limb amputation, you'd really kind of gather the students in. So you, one student who actually left quite a lot of details about his time as an apprentice here, and he describes his fellow students as being packed like herrings in a barrel, with a towel down. But how harrowing it would have been, of course, to just be observed by what was a lot of kind of very loud young men that are obviously trying to sort of like get the best views. So there's a lot of scrambling around. Today, all we can really hear is the echo of our own voices. There's actually a silence in this place, really, today. But certainly when it was in use, it would have been quite noisy.
Julie, what's the time period for this? When was this an actual functioning operating theatre?
Well, that's very interesting because the theatre was established in the 1820s. So 1822 is recorded as the first operation to take place here. We have the arrival of anaesthetic in 1846-47, but this operating theatre is actually, the hospital vacates Southwark in 1862, so obviously everything is closed down, and that's very much on the eve of the discovery of germs. So while some of the patients would have benefited from an effective pain relief, no one would have actually benefited here from the surgeon washing his hands.
Does that make this a unique space, or is there anywhere else like this?
There isn't, no. There isn't. We are the oldest surgical theatre in Europe. We're beaten by a few years in Boston, Massachusetts. We have what is the ether dome, which is where ether was first given. But we are the oldest that survives in Europe, as far as we know. But you never know, there might be other operating theatres that will emerge in unusual places like church towers in years to come. That's the great thing about history. You don't know what you can discover.
Julie, when you reopen on Saturday, the route will come in from the Herb Garret in through here and then out up the stairs.
Yes.
You'll have a quarter of an hour in this space to explore and to feel it. But I've seen you do demonstrations in here where you've called people down out of the audience and had them lying on the replica table, got the knives out, and it's been a kind of spine-tingling, hair standing up on the top of your head experience. It's amazing. It will be maybe months until you can do that again.
Yeah,
but
and
you will get back to that.
we're really missing that, because I think that there is the great thing about this is that it's so science specific that you can really put yourself in the picture. So you'll often get somebody that go, oh yeah, I'll play patient, and then when they're down here you can see the way that they actually become a part of it, and you see their sort of mood change in a way. I mean, of course, hopefully they know that I'm not really going to operate on them, even though we have had a few sort of unusual tweets in the past. Once, a couple of years ago, we had a fellow that commented, it was a great place, but he was disappointed that there wasn't a real operation.
Sarah, is it okay to ask about the financial security of small museums? You're a good example of a small, non-government funded museum. How's it going to pan out for you?
Yeah, so it's a very challenging time at the moment. 100% of our income is all generated through our admission, our shop, our education and our events programme. So as soon as the doors closed, that was it. We went from having a busy diary of school groups, events, lots of exciting plans over the summer. We were introducing new workshops, wellbeing weekend workshops. And that just all, went from busy diary to lots of cancellations, lots of refunds having to be made, which is completely understandable. So we're having to think about, how do we generate an income while we're closed? Because we're only going to be opening 2 days a week, which is completely different to what we used to. We used to open 6.5 days a week, 360 days a year. So we were constantly welcoming visitors and being able to generate that income, which just goes back into the charity to the upkeep of this building and the offers and the programme that we deliver. So it's been with our minimised sort of offer from the 25th of July, when we're opening Saturday and Sunday only on a sort of a timed slot booking process, we've worked out that if we hit all our targets around sort of getting everyone in on those weekend days, it's still going to be a third of what our usual income would be. So that's a huge sort of challenge. And I know a lot of other small museums are in the similar sort of boat to us, small businesses, independent businesses all around the area and across the country. So we're having to be quite creative. We're definitely looking at virtual offers. So can we deliver evening Victorian demonstrations, which we're hoping to sort of launch in August. And like I say, it's going to be hopefully available for everyone around the world to sign up, and there'll be a small charge, but hopefully it'll be worth it. We're also, because we will be closed, the museum will be closed to general public during the week, we would like to encourage lots more sort of maybe hire for filming, because it's a fantastic space as you've explored, and perfect backdrop for maybe adverts or film shoots or photography shoots. So happy to talk to anyone who's got a plan to do some filming, to come and do something here. We'd like to do more walks as well. So a lot of people might feel like they don't want to necessarily come into the space because it is quite small, and despite all our social distancing and our protocols, some people just would feel more comfortable staying outside. So we're developing a walk. It's going to be about a 2-hour walk around London Bridge, stopping off at a lot of the local sites. So not just medical history, but just social history, sort of exploring this wonderful space and the hidden gems. So we'll be offering that to smaller groups, a small fee, with one of our kind of team members. But yeah, we're just trying to be creative. So we're also offering our online shop. So when we closed our doors, our shop was one of the things that we had to say goodbye to because we didn't have it online. But while we've been closed, we've been developing the fundraising to raise the money to then pay for putting the shop online. So thanks to all our followers on Facebook who have been donating, we were able to pay for our website development. And now the shop is a great way to people all over the world can purchase some of our unique items. We've got some lovely bespoke jewellery that people can purchase. That's been going really well. We've been live for about 2 weeks now, and we've already shipped out to Australia, to Switzerland, all over the UK. So we're really pleased that we've made that more available.
Sarah, today is Wednesday. We're filming on Wednesday. We're going to broadcast on Friday, and so at broadcast it'll be tomorrow. Good luck for tomorrow.
Thank you.
And I'm sure this is going to be the beginning of a new great phase.
Hopefully.
But looking forward in a few months' time, in 2021, perhaps, getting people back and enjoying everything that the museum has to offer.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Alex, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone down at the Old Operating Theatre for that amazing little trip around the museum. It's such a fascinating place to visit, and it is definitely something that you should consider visiting next time you come to London. A lot of the smaller museums do rely solely on visitors to keep the museum going, so it's vitally important that people continue to support these smaller museums as they start to open up to the public once more. Now, if you want to know more about the Old Operating Theatre, then the best place to find information is on the website. You'll find the website at oldoperatingtheatre.com. There it will give you information about how you can visit the museum. Now, keep an eye on the opening times because obviously it's a changing situation. At the moment, the museum is just open on a Saturday and Sunday, and you have to pre-book your tickets online, which you can do from the website. Obviously, as time changes, as the museum starts to open up a bit more, then hopefully other days will be added in, and perhaps some of those restrictions will be removed. You can also find information about the shop that we were hearing about earlier on. Some things you can buy online. They ship all around the world, and anything you buy on the website goes to help support the museum. So it's definitely worth having a look on the oldoperatingtheatre.com website. Now, if you want to know anything more about our guides, then the best place to find it is on the Guide London website, guidelondon.org.uk. That will tell you all about the Blue Badge guides here in London and about the types of tours they can offer. You can search for individual guides. If you know the name of your guide, even if you just know their first name, you can do a little search. All you have to do is go to the Find a Guide option, type in their name. So if I want to search for Alex, who gave us our look around the Old Operating Theatre today, all I need to do is put in his name, find a guide, and that will show me all the guides that we have registered who have the name Alex, and there indeed is Alex Hetherington. And if you click on the profile, that will give you a bit of information about the guide, and it will also tell you a bit about their availability. So if you're coming to London on a specific day, you can see whether your favourite guide is available. If you don't know a guide personally, you just want to select one of our guides at random, then just go to Find a Guide, fill in the form, and the system will recommend 3 of our guides to deal with your requests. We also have pages looking at the different tours that the guides can offer. If I click on the tours page, you can see there's all kinds of things you can do. Some of the buildings are not open yet, so obviously when you put in your request for the tour, the guide will let you know exactly what is available at the moment and what you can see. But there are things like the London Rock and Roll tour that you can do without having to actually go into any buildings. We have other Charles Dickens tour, wander around the streets of London, the paths that Charles Dickens walked when he was writing those great novels from the 19th century. Or go on a William Shakespeare tour. There's so many places in London associated with William Shakespeare, where he lived, where he performed, where those plays, Romeo and Juliet, where they were performed for the very first time. If you hire a London guide, they can tell you all that information. London Virtual Tour is also worth exploring. It's one of the new options that we added this year to cope with the COVID epidemic outbreak, and it's a way of experiencing London from your own home. A guide will put together a virtual tour. They will take you through different aspects of London, different themes of London, different places in London, and tell you all about the buildings, all about the history, and all about the culture of the city. And you can get those virtual tours without ever having to leave the comfort of your own armchair. All you have to do is click on London Virtual Tour, go down to the bottom of the page, fill in your details in the form, and that will go off to our guides, and they will get back to you and tell you exactly what they can offer as part of a virtual tour. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks again to everyone down at the Old Operating Theatre. Fingers crossed for tomorrow when the theatre opens up to the public once more. Hopefully it will all go well, and hopefully you'll come and visit them in person next time you come to London. From all of us here, for the moment though, goodbye.